So, who is the real villain of Monkie Kid Season 4? Well, we do definitely know that Azure Lion is not the true villain of this season, as the Jade Emperor himself said this.
Or were you too oblivious with your own delusions to realize you are a mere piece in someone else's game?
If the Jade Emperor said that Azure is a mere piece in someone else's game, then there must be another villain pulling the strings. After all, Azure said that not only were Peng and Yellow Tusk trapped in the scroll, but he himself was also trapped in the scroll.
It was with their combined power that we were cut down, imprisoned within this scroll.
And if Azure was trapped in the scroll, how exactly did he get out? Clearly, someone must have released him, which must be why the Jade Emperor said,
"How is it you come to stand before me today, Azure? Was there a point where you questioned it?"
So, who released Azure? Well, at the very beginning of Season 4, we see someone in the Underworld go to the Scroll of Memory, and then we see them go and take a part of it. Perhaps this mysterious hooded person released Azure. So, is this mysterious hooded person the true villain of the season? I actually don't think so. When Azure was talking about the scroll, we see other identical-looking mysterious hooded people. And we see that it is those same hooded people putting the curse on the scroll. It seems these hooded people work in the Underworld, especially as they have the same uniform as those who seem to guard the Underworld. So, it is likely the mysterious hooded person we see at the beginning of Season 4 is a servant to the real Mastermind. So, who is the real villain of Monkie Kid Season 4? Well, what is interesting is that the Scroll of Memory has all these symbols on it. And these same symbols are on the walls where the full scroll is kept in the Underworld. Now, funnily enough, we have seen these symbols before. These symbols are the symbols that Lady Bone Demon uses, and the symbols that have constantly been associated with her. We see them on the skeleton key, we see them in Lady Bone Demon's crypt, we see them when she uses her powers to possess Sun Wukong, we see them on the compass she gave Macaque, and we see them when she uses her bone mech, etc, etc. The point is, Lady Bone Demon constantly used the same symbols we see on the Scroll of Memory. Now, I did check, and no other person who uses magic and spells and stuff has ever used the same symbols Lady Bone Demon used. Well, there is one exception. The mysterious hooded figures who seem to be entrusted with looking after the Scroll of Memory used some of these symbols when they were putting the curse on the scroll. Now, I don't think that Lady Bone Demon is the secret villain. She is dead after all. But I do think the real Mastermind is someone connected to her. But we'll get to who that might be in a bit. So, now you might be wondering what these symbols are. Well, these symbols are actually the symbols for the Chinese zodiac. But these zodiac symbols aren't just any zodiac symbols. They are written in Oracle Bone Script. Oracle Bone Script is ancient Chinese writing found on animal bones or turtle shells, which were used in divinization in ancient China. Essentially, used to find out someone's destiny. Interesting, since Lady Bone Demon is so obsessed with destiny. Anyway, Oracle Bone Script eventually evolved into the Chinese writing that exists today. Anyway, Lady Bone Demon is definitely linked to the Scroll of Memory in some way, as she is strongly associated with the symbols on the scroll. Plus, the symbols are literally called Oracle Bone Script symbols, linking to the two main things about Lady Bone Demon, destiny/fate and bones. And you know what? There is another thing that connects Lady Bone Demon to the Scroll of Memory. At separate times, Lady Bone Demon says to Sun Wukong and Macaque that she would erase the world's memory of them.
I will rip the memory of you from this world. If you betray me again, one misstep, one failure in any way, I will erase the very memory of you.
Thus, it is quite possible that, if Lady Bone Demon was connected to the Scroll of Memory, she had the ability to alter the Scroll of Memory and erase people's memories. She could even erase everyone's memories of a certain person. In fact, there's significant evidence that, in Monkie Kid, various people's memories have indeed been messed with. For example, it seems that Pigsy, Tang, and Sandy are actually the original pilgrims, but they have no memory of this. Now, I am well aware that, in Season 4, the characters themselves seem to have come to the conclusion that they are the descendants of the original pilgrims. However, I believe that the characters themselves saying this is actually a red herring. In Season 2, Episode 8, Sandy sees some monkeys that have been beaten up, and he has a flashback to some war. But then we briefly see him have a flashback to seeing Zhu Bajie knocked out. If Sha Wujing was just Sandy's ancestor, no way could he have that memory. Anyway, I did make a whole video about how I think Pigsy, Tang, and Sandy are not reincarnations or descendants, but literally the original pilgrims. But there is other evidence memories have been messed with. First of all, the intro of Season 4 has a segment which shows moments from the past, but these moments are surrounded by the scroll of memory. However, no other scenes from the intro are surrounded by the scroll, so I think this could be hinting at these memories being altered. Furthermore, these same scenes from the intro are shown in Season 4 when Azure is showing MK what happened between him and Sun Wukong. However, the scenes in the intro and the scenes shown in the show are not the same. Here is the first scene from the intro, and while it doesn't actually have an alternate version that matches up well, the best we have is this scene. And here's the next scene in the intro. As you can see, there is a near identical scene in the show, but there are some big differences. Like how the intro version has Azure wearing the outfit he wears when the Brotherhood is formed, and the version in the show has him wearing his Celestial Warrior outfit. To be honest, in the intro, Azure looks much more evil. Next is this scene where the Brotherhood are laughing. However, we never see Sun Wukong passed out in the show. Additionally, the scene we see in episode 8 is the exact same as what we saw in the flashback in episode 2. The animation has clearly been reused for 2 episodes, but not for the intro. Then the last scene from the intro. Here we see all of the Brotherhood going up against the Jade Emperor. However, in the show we see a different scene where just Sun Wukong is facing the Jade Emperor while the others are surrounded. So, to me it seems rather unusual that the scenes from the intro are different to the ones in the show, especially for this scene. So, I do think memories have been altered. Another thing is, in Journey to the West, the book Monkey Kid is based on, Sun Wukong has 6 sworn brothers, making 7 altogether including him. Now, in Monkey Kid, Sun Wukong only had 5 sworn brothers, making 6 all up. Furthermore, out of Sun Wukong's sworn brothers in Monkey Kid, only the Demon Bull King was one of his sworn brothers in the book. However, Macaque, Azure, and Peng all have names similar to the original sworn brothers in the book. But in the book, the Azure Lion, the Golden Winged Peng, and the 6-eared Macaque are not the same characters as the Lion Camel King, the Peng Demon King, and the Macaque King. Now, where am I going with this? What if, in Monkey Kid, Sun Wukong's sworn brothers were the same as in the book, and their memories have been changed to make everyone think that Sun Wukong's sworn brothers included Azure Lion, Peng, Yellow Tusk, and Macaque? It would also be easier to change memories since the new sworn brothers have similar names to the old ones. Now, in Season 4, Episode 2, we see Sun Wukong and his sworn brothers sitting at a table. However, even though there are 6 of them, there was an extra chair. That makes 7 chairs. 7 chairs for the original 7 sworn brothers. We also see the extra chair in another frame, so in 2 different frames there are 7 chairs. Now I must admit, at the end of the flashback, the extra chair has disappeared. Perhaps the reason the extra chair is missing in the last frame is because their memories have been altered, or it was an animation mistake and the 7th chair was supposed to be there. Now, guess what? There is more connecting Lady Bone Demon to the scroll. In Season 4, Episode 2, when Azure tells MK and May about the Scroll of Memory, we see this. It's constellations and images surrounding the scroll, and when it zooms in, we see the characters surrounding the scroll. We see all the pilgrims, but we also see Lady Bone Demon and Spider Queen. It is kind of odd that we only see 2 of the villains the pilgrims faced, isn't it? Not to mention, we can see that Spider Queen and Lady Bone Demon are not fighting the pilgrims, but they are fighting each other. Just like how, in Season 2, Episode 9, they fight each other. Additionally, Spider Queen was part of Lady Bone Demon's grand plan. Lady Bone Demon continuously said she would help Spider Queen fulfill her destiny, but really, her destiny was to become part of the Bone Mech.
It is time to take the next step towards your destiny.
You promised me my destiny!
A promise I did not break, my queen. This is your destiny.
So, I'd say this image is clearly referencing Lady Bone Demon's plan involving Spider Queen. So, to me, it seems like Lady Bone Demon's image here around the scroll further indicates that she is somehow related to the Scroll of Memory. Additionally, the Scroll of Memory is stored in the Underworld. Not only does Lady Bone Demon's whole bone and skeleton thing link to death and the Underworld, but she literally brought Macaque back from the Underworld after he was killed by Sun Wukong.
I who returned you to the mortal plane.
So, it definitely seems Lady Bone Demon is connected to the scroll. However, if she is dead, then who is the true mastermind of the season? Well, in Season 2 Episode 5, Sun Wukong went to the Bone Demon Temple, and in this temple, we see this mural. We see Lady Bone Demon in the middle, with 4 figures surrounding her. Now, who are these people? Well, did you know that, in the original book, Lady Bone Demon actually had family? When she's first introduced in Journey to the West, she spots Tang Sanzhong and says to herself, "For several years, my relatives have been talking about a Tang monk." This is the only mention of her family in Journey to the West, but I believe the figures in this mural are her family and that they may be the real masterminds of Season 4, and that they have something to do with the Scroll of Memory. Now, I know some people might say that the other figures in the mural are Lady Bone Demon's other forms, as we see her shapeshift into other forms in the Season 3 special. However, if the people on the mural were merely Lady Bone Demon's other forms, it would make sense for them to match her other forms shown in the Season 3 special, but they don't at all, aside from possibly the old lady. Additionally, a big reason I doubt that the people in the mural are Lady Bone Demon's other forms is because Lady Bone Demon's forms in the Season 3 special were clearly specifically chosen to be the same 3 forms she took in the book. So, to conclude, Lady Bone Demon is constantly associated with Oracle Bone zodiac symbols, and constantly used them. Yet, the exact same symbols are on the Scroll of Memory, and the only other people to use those symbols were the hooded figures who put the curse on the scroll. Lady Bone Demon said to Macaque and Sun Wukong that she would erase the memory of them from the world, which could link her to the Scroll of Memory. And we know there has been a lot of evidence that the characters' memories have been tampered with. Lady Bone Demon was pictured around the scroll here, and also the Scroll of Memory is kept in the Underworld, and Lady Bone Demon was able to bring Macaque back from the Underworld, so she has Underworld connections. But, obviously Lady Bone Demon is dead. So, the secret villain could in fact be one of her relatives. There's also a chance that Lady Bone Demon set everything in motion a long time ago before she died, and now the mayor has come back to finish her work. But I think it's unlikely that the mayor is some secret mastermind. Anyway, I do have a big theory about Azure and his friends and their connection to the scroll, but that will have to be another video. But I have plenty of other Monkey Kid theory videos on my channel, including about who I think Macaque really is, so you can check all those out. And I've also made lots of Monkey Kid animations.